So here we are with Eddie Hearn after the David Haye Tyson Fury press conference, and I looked over to my left at one stage in the middle of the press conference, and I said, I just saw you laughing, beaming, and chuckling away back on your heels.
Well, it's nice to be sort of kind of behind the scenes on this one, so you know, but you can just sit there and enjoy it. I mean, Tyson Fury is a born entertainer.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. I mean, I've never seen him in action before, and he's hilarious.
Yeah.
Hilarious. I mean, I'm really surprised how entertaining. I've always watched him in little clips and bits and pieces, but I thought it was brilliant. I mean, David at times sort of sat there as if to say,
yeah.
But, you know.
Because it's usually, the shoe's usually on the other foot
exactly.
there.
Well, listen, so David Haye is essentially a character of the sport and an entertainer.
Indeed.
But there, it looked like Tyson Fury was the entertainer, and that's why I think this fight's going to be huge, because it's going to grow and grow and grow. And obviously Tyson's not going to be quiet, is he? He's going to keep talking the fight up, and he's convincing as well. I mean, that's the other thing. It's not as if he just comes in like a madman and starts saying this, like, and actually, when he breaks things down, he explains things very well as well. When he's breaking down his former opponents and stuff like that, he obviously knows the sport as well. And
well, he obviously is a big fan of it, and him and his uncle and trainer, Peter Fury, obviously study a lot of their fighters and, you know, methodically break it down as well. Even though you think he's just a wild fighting man, you know, there is a little bit of science behind it as well.
No, definitely, and I think that's impressive if you listen to him. He obviously knows his boxing and he knows his sport, and him and Peter will study the fight and the fighter. Listen, they fancy each other. Why shouldn't they? I mean, he's a big lump, you know, he's 6'9", he's certainly got no fear.
Like when you first heard that fight being made, what was your thoughts?
You know, you got to fancy Haye because of his experience and his speed and power. But you know, at the same time, you do have to think he's boxed what in the last once in the last
12 months,
two years, you know. So and Tyson's boxing regularly, and he's always
he's on an upward trajectory, isn't he?
He is, but he has been hurt before by smaller punches than Haye. But then David struggled against the bigger man. So I think what will happen is, you know, you look at the price now. I think he's 4 or 5 to 1 to win the fight.
That's the odds,
9 to 2 or something like that. So you'll see them come down. And you know what? I think you'll end up seeing a popularity stakes for him as well. Because essentially, I don't know Tyson, but I get the feeling he's actually a nice bloke. Do you know what I mean? With a good heart. I mean, he says some silly things sometimes.
Yeah, he gets a bit carried away, doesn't he?
I think essentially, like Mick said, when you get to meet him, you actually will realise he's a nice bloke.
And maybe that'll come out.
I think if it does, he's going to be popular. I mean, it's his hometown as well. You know, so I mean, it's a bit like when dare I say, when Audley Harrison fought David Haye. You know, when they both walked out, it wasn't like massive boos versus massive cheers. And that's what happens in the build-up to a fight. You get to know someone and you get to like them. And I think that's what will happen with Tyson.
We heard a question during the press conference about who's the promoter, what's the story there. And what exactly will your involvement be? Or are you sitting back, letting the rest of them sort of take control of this one?
I'm co-promoter of David Haye. I'm not promoting the show. I've helped out behind the scenes. Obviously, I've got a great relationship with Sky, but you know, there's too much politics in boxing as it is for someone else to start getting involved. Adam knows what he's doing, and he's sat down, he's ironed everything out with Mick and Peter. So you know, I'm working with.
He's well able to handle himself. He's been there before. He's had these type of negotiations.
They're going to have half the undercard each, of which we'll be inputting our help into Adam and Haymaker's half. So we'll be involved, but not, you know, not stressing for this one. Just more sitting back and enjoying it and trying to help out in the undercard, and obviously any advice we need to give for Adam and Haymaker along the way.
Let's flip on to Irish boxing, something you're becoming less and less involved with by the minute.
Talking to me.
Yeah, I know. We haven't spoke to each other since Frampton's gone and doing his own thing with Cyclone Promotions. What's your take on that?
Well, yeah, there's been a lot of talk about it. I mean, I saw his comments a couple of days ago about Sky and having preference over England. I mean, what you got to understand is this is a business. You don't have preference over English fighters or Irish fighters. You have preference over ratings. When we went to Ireland, the ratings were poor. Okay, that's just life. That's how it is. Right. And some of the shows we done in Ireland were brilliant. I mean, the Frampton against Martinez card, I couldn't have put on a better card.
Televisively,
and the ratings were poor. You know, when I did Frampton against Molitor, again, really good card, the ratings were poor. When I did McCloskey again, McCloskey and the prize fighters, generally the rating was poor. So, you know, I've got to deliver ratings.
Yeah.
I can't, it's not a case of,
Well, when you say poor, like what sort of percentage below?
They were very low end of our Saturday night fight nights.
Right.
Very low end.
Yeah.
Sometimes the lowest.
Would they be disappointingly low when you think, look at this product, that shouldn't be, that doesn't correlate to where it should be?
You're exactly right. Disappointingly low in relation to the event.
Product and
you know, and when you think there were 6,500 people there against Martinez, the atmosphere was brilliant,
it was buzzing,
the card was brilliant, and it didn't deliver on the ratings. Now that's nothing against Carl Frampton or Irish fighters, but I don't know why that is.
Yeah.
But when you're dealing with a broadcaster,
it's a smaller demographic, isn't it?
But it's very difficult to go back to a broadcast and say, right, let's go back out to Ireland when it is 20 or 30% production more expensive.
Right.
When they're saying, well, it's not really rated, and don't get me wrong, they love Frampton. I mean, they backed him. There was plenty of times where they came out again and again, and, you know, and you know, I like to think we did a great job with Frampton, building him up on all these undercards to the big fights in the UK as well. You know, his other comments about didn't feel like it was a priority. What you've got to understand is, and you know, some fighters say to him, you know, we feel as though you've got a closer relationship with the likes of Brook, with the likes of Bellew, with the likes of Barker. Very, very, very easy. I deal with the fighters, not their managers. I spoke to Carl Frampton 3 or 4 times probably.
So you're saying that you didn't have the relationship with him because there was a barrier?
I had no relationship with Carl Frampton. I had a relationship with Barry McGuigan. So it's very difficult to feel part of the journey when you're not really relating to the fighter. Do you know what I mean? I mean, people like Carl Froch, you know, these are my friends. Do you know what I mean? I'd give my right arm for them. But it's very difficult for me to have the same feelings about Carl Frampton because I never really
when you don't get a chance. You know, so you didn't have the opportunity to build up
and also, I always knew that the long-term opinion on Carl Frampton was Barry McGuigan wanted to be the promoter. And I always knew that. I mean, they never had no loyalty to me in terms of a long-term deal and stuff like that. So it was what it was. And after the Martinez fight, we had a conversation. I knew exactly what was going to happen.
So you felt that the split widen after from discussions after that.
The split was always going to happen, provided I gave Barry what he wanted. And I didn't want to give Barry what he wanted. That was the bottom line. And listen, I've said it 100 times. The kid's great. He's a great fighter. You know, but they're doing what they want to do. They've got the family working all around the team now, and I understand that. You know, I don't. You know, from me, there's no hard feelings. I've been very surprised by his comments because you should never burn bridges in this business.
You never know if you got to come back at some stage, you know. But let's move on to other guys you're connected with. You know, O'Kane and McCloskey. Well, what's the story there?
Well, same. No contract. A long-term contract with either fighter, fight-by-fight basis. Obviously, us not coming back to Ireland now, or in the short term, means it's bad news for Paul McCloskey.
So they're going to have to come over to England,
they
really,
are,
and build themselves into
listen, I mean, I offered Paul McCloskey a fight on the whole card. We all know about that. He was against Curtis Woodhouse. He turned that down. He didn't like the fight, but
do you think he had a point about the opponent?
But at the end of the day, you got to put food on the table. Do you know what I mean? And I'm saying to him, look, maybe I can get you in a fight in September, but if you want to fight now, this is the fight. Right? Because financially, you've got to make the fight make sense.
And he could have built on that.
But I mean, and it's a 10-rounder. It doesn't matter if it's a 10-rounder against Curtis Woodhouse or against some geezer from Mexico. You know, the fact is that the 10-rounder against Curtis Woodhouse is a lot more relevant to the market that you're working in. So that was it, and it was a payday, and it was a chance to get out, and he didn't want it. So, you know, he's got ideas of these other fights, and again, look, you know, we have to deliver for our broadcaster, and the fact of the matter is that Paul McCloskey headlining in Ireland right now isn't going to happen. So therefore, they've got to come to the UK and have a fight there, and the fight within that time frame that I could get through was Curtis Woodhouse in a 10-rounder. Opportunity to earn money, food on the table.
Exposure.
Exactly.
Opportunity to rebuild.
And now, you know, I offered him a fight on the February card. He wasn't ready. I think he had some injury problems, but you know, again, you're going to get a period of British boxing where people have got to take opportunities and fights, and that's really what we want as promoters and fans. You know, I'm not saying that that's a great example of the Woodhouse fight, but the bottom line is people are going to have to take fights to get work, and that's how it should be. You know, we're not trying to run this tight ship here, and you know, we're saying that you've got to take a fight. You know, and sometimes you're going to get a bit of an easier touch, but sometimes you're going to be in a real tough fight for your money. But you know, with regards to Eamon O'Kane, he's fighting
tomorrow night.
Yeah, that's a great fight. I mean, that's one I would have made in Belfast. Perfect.
Well, you said it before that you wanted
perfect
to make
second
that
or third
one,
fight on. You know, I mean, it was a great fight and prize fighter.
Yeah.
I think Fitzgerald could do the business there.
He's underdog going into it, but underdog.
But he done well against Andy Lee.
He's a hungry fighter as well.
He is, but Eamon's a tough kid as well. So I think that's a brilliant fight.
It is a good fight, yeah.
You know, but I don't know. I mean, obviously the whole point of the Frampton move was that in September they'll be back in Belfast for a huge show.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll know more about me than that, what's playing with that. But my gut feeling is that they'll box in London in September.
Yeah.
I mean, so, but listen, again, now my attention's moved to Scott Quigg because he's our new man. And my relationship with Scott Quigg is with Scott Quigg, not with a manager or anything like that. So we will get close, and already I'm probably have a close relationship with Scott Quigg in a month than I have with Frampton in 3 years.
Really? Well,
but take nothing. I mean, look, as I said before, Frampton is a brilliant fighter. Yeah. Brilliant fighter, and so is Quigg. Yeah. You know.
So talking about that fight, is that fight closer or further away? In your opinion?
I think it's probably closer. I mean, don't forget that when I had Frampton, we talked about that fight, and that wasn't really on the agenda at all in the short term. And they were conversations we had in the last couple of months. So to get that fight offered to us seemed a bit strange straight off the cuff. Obviously, I think there were some other reasons behind that offer, but the bottom line is Quigg's down to fight Salinas for the WBA world title. That's a tough fight, by the way. Salinas can fight, but it is a world title opportunity. So, and that's what they all want to win. Yeah. So you look at Frampton, and I know Frampton's position probably better than anyone. Yeah. Other than their director. Exactly. And you look at Romero offered Frampton the fight in August. He turned it down, as did we, because they were looking for an opponent. After this fight, Romero's got to fight Matthew Baylor. Yeah. So Carl was going to have to wait for that IBF title. And you look at the other divisions, you've got Leo Santa Cruz is probably going to become the WBC champion. Yeah. And if you want to fight these guys, you've got to give up options. So, and Barry's not going to do that. So he's going to have to wait and bide his time to become the IBF mandatory.
He's going to have
which he will.
Final eliminator.
Yeah, everyone loves a final eliminator, but people laugh about my final eliminator. Actually, it's a golden route.
It's the obvious, financially and.
But the thing is, when you look at that route, Frampton will end up becoming the mandatory. Yeah. But, this is the next mandatory, and then the mandatory will call 9 months in the fight. So he won't be able to be mandatory for the IBF world title probably for another year or so. So that probably makes me think the Quigg fight might become a little bit more obvious because
if he gets a world title,
and that's the biggest money fight out there for either of them. Yeah. Quigg will get much more money fighting Frampton than he will fighting Salinas, and Frampton the same fighting Romero or something like that. So, but you want to win a world title, and you'd love one of those to go into that fight with a world title.
Yeah, it makes it a lot more juicy, doesn't it?
I think it's just great for sport that we.
Would you think that would be a candidate for a pay-per-view fight on Sky?
Well, not after what Frampton said. I mean, it's.
Listen, you love a pound note.
Well, yeah.
So I'm sure you could.
No, in answer to your question, no, not right now. Yeah. I think both of those would need to win a world title before that was pay-per-view. Yeah. But again, it does make, not being funny, it does make it difficult when you make comments like that because it does rub people up the wrong way. Yeah. But I think that fight's still away. Hopefully we can get Salinas done, and hopefully Quigg can win, and then that will set up something really big. But then obviously Quigg will be world champion. Yeah. Frampton won. Yeah. So it's like if you give him a shot,
the power,
options, so it's difficult. All these things have to happen at the right time.
All right, listen, thanks very much for talking to us, and we hope to see you back in Ireland sooner than maybe we anticipate at the moment.
One day.
Cheers.